I paid for the cruise, the car, the roof over her head, only to find out she'd been filming sex videos with another guy behind my back for months. I didn't just get cheated on, I funded their entire relationship. 8 months ago, I found out that my girlfriend of almost 6 years had been cheating on me. This is how it all went down. I had paid for a cruise to the Bahamas, Haiti, and Jamaica. I really needed this vacation because I hadn't been able to take time off during the Christmas holidays. Instead of going somewhere relaxing during Christmas break, I had driven across state lines to attend her winter graduation ceremony. This spring break trip felt important because I desperately needed a break from medical school. Plus, I thought it would be meaningful for her since she supposedly had Jamaican roots through her father, and she had never had the chance to explore that part of her heritage. On the last day of the cruise, she fell asleep wearing my headphones, which were connected to her phone. TikTok was playing in the background, so her phone stayed unlocked. What happened next is going to sound absolutely crazy, but I swear this is exactly how it happened. I suddenly experienced something like sleep paralysis. I felt this presence holding me down, almost pinning me to the bed. Then I heard a voice that simply said it would release me, and when it did, I needed to go straight to her photos. The moment I could move again, I went directly to her phone's photo gallery. What I found there were multiple sex videos with another man spanning 6 months. Of course, she immediately started crying and begging me not to leave her. She even offered to move to the state where I was living for medical school, which was ironic because she had refused that exact suggestion when I had proposed it months earlier. Back then, she said she would be miserable if she moved. I had been willing to work and go to school simultaneously, rent an apartment, split utilities with her, and all she would have needed to do was see a therapist for her mental health issues. I was ready to do all of that in the name of love. Keep in mind that at this point, she was actually living in my mother's house because her own mother had kicked her out while I was preparing for my medical school entrance exams. When she first moved in with my mom, she had actually emotionally cheated on me during the pandemic. I briefly told her to move out, but we reconciled 2 months later. Shortly after that, I got accepted into medical school and had to leave my home state. After I found those videos, I went through every emotion imaginable. I cried, I laughed hysterically, and I even punched the bathroom mirror and had to get medical treatment on the cruise ship. Then, this girl tried to end her life on the ship. So naturally, I had to rush to help her and provide medical assistance. When we got back to the States, I told her she needed to move out. She lied to me repeatedly about blocking her lover. Turns out, she actually blocked me instead of him. When I confronted her about this, I learned even more details about the cheating. While we were on the cruise together, she was actually texting someone else and exchanging explicit photos. Not only that, but after we returned to the States following my discovery of her infidelity, she actually went to meet up with the guy she had been texting during the cruise. 2 weeks after that, she went on an actual date with this person right after I had expressed suicidal thoughts to her. She told me she was so sad that she was going to get drunk, but no, she went on a date instead and made me feel guilty about it. Remember how I mentioned attending her graduation ceremony? Well, the day after her graduation, she told me she had to take care of her younger sister and left me for the night. Turns out, she actually went to a hotel with her lover. By the way, the lover is an abusive drug dealer with multiple baby mamas. During the time she was cheating, I had sensed something was wrong. When I would come home to visit, which I did regularly because she couldn't or wouldn't drive across state lines to see me, the sex became less frequent. During our dates, it felt like she wasn't really present. She lied about stupid things. Speaking of lies, I found out she had booked a hotel room. And when I asked her about it, she claimed it was for her and her friends. In reality, it was for her and her man. To add insult to injury, she had borrowed money from me, so essentially, I was paying for housing where she and her lover could hook up. When I expressed that her lying wasn't helping build trust, especially after she had emotionally cheated on me before, she turned everything around on me. When I brought up that her financial instability was concerning, especially given that she was working and not paying any bills while living in my mother's house, she flipped that on me too.
I just remembered another detail. I took $1,000 from my savings to put a down payment on her car. Guess where their first little date took place? Yep, in that same car I helped pay for. I broke down multiple times over her staying out late, over why she never came to visit me despite me always traveling to see her. And the whole time, she knew the truth. She knew she wasn't investing in our relationship because there was someone else. Meanwhile, I was going to therapy to better communicate my needs and wants. I was working while attending medical school to support her so she could finish school, so I could pay for therapy for both myself and for her. I'm not saying I was perfect, but I was doing everything I could on my end and was always willing to work on my shortcomings. The craziest part? During my train ride back to my school campus, she told me she had gotten an abortion of our child. She had never even told me she was pregnant. So what did I learn from all of this? When someone cheats, know that they will cheat again. The decision to stay or leave is yours to make. Never invest too much when you're getting so little in return. When you feel like something is wrong, it probably is. Infidelity happens to many people. Pick yourself up and know that there is light at the end of the tunnel. 8 months ago, I was in a suicidal state. Today, I'm in a much better place, preparing for my first major exams. Therapy, compassion, self-love, self-respect, and self-improvement are the keys to recovery. Never mix money with love unless you're married. Period. Looking back now, I can see all the red flags I ignored. I can see how much I sacrificed while she gave so little. I paid for trips, helped with her car, let her live rent-free in my mother's home, supported her through school, and offered to pay for her therapy. I drove across state lines repeatedly to see her while she made excuses about why she couldn't visit me. I bent over backwards trying to make the relationship work while attending one of the most demanding graduate programs that exist. The betrayal cut deep, not just because of the cheating itself, but because of the timing and circumstances. I was working my tail off in medical school, one of the most stressful experiences a person can go through. I was trying to build a future for both of us. And while I was studying late into the night, stressing about exams, and sacrificing my own well-being to support her financially and emotionally, she was making sex videos with another guy. What really messes with my head is that she let me plan this entire cruise, thinking it would be a romantic getaway and a chance for her to connect with her heritage. I spent money I didn't really have as a medical student. I was excited to give her this experience. And she spent the whole trip texting someone else and sending him explicit photos? She looked me in the eyes every day of that trip, knowing what she had done and what she was continuing to do. The hotel incident particularly stings. She borrowed money from me, told me it was for hanging out with friends, and used it to book a romantic getaway with her lover. I literally funded their date. That level of disrespect is almost impressive in how brazen it is. And then there's the abortion situation. She terminated a pregnancy without even telling me she was pregnant in the first place. Regardless of how anyone feels about abortion as a concept, the fact that she didn't give me any say or even any knowledge about it shows how little she valued me as a partner. I would have supported whatever decision she made, but I deserve to at least know it was happening. The emotional cheating during the pandemic should have been my wake-up call. I should have ended things then. But I loved her, and I wanted to believe people could change. I wanted to believe that our reconciliation meant something, and that she would recommit to our relationship. Instead, she just got better at hiding things. What bothers me most is how much time I wasted. 6 years is a significant chunk of your 20s. Those are years I could have spent with someone who actually valued me, or even just being single and focusing on myself and my career. Instead, I spent them being lied to, manipulated, and taken advantage of financially and emotionally. The psychological manipulation was real too. Whenever I brought up legitimate concerns about trust, finances, or her behavior, she would flip it around and make me feel like I was being controlling or unreasonable. She gaslit me into thinking my gut feelings were just paranoia or insecurity. And like an idiot, I went to therapy to work on myself, thinking I was the problem. Don't get me wrong, therapy helped me in many ways, but I was going to fix issues that weren't actually my fault. I think about all the times I defended her to my friends and family who expressed concerns about the relationship. I think about all the times I made excuses for her behavior or gave her the benefit of the doubt. I was so committed to making it work that I ignored every single warning sign. The fact that she tried to harm herself on the cruise ship after I discovered everything added another layer of trauma to the whole situation. I had to switch from being someone who just discovered a devastating betrayal to being a medical responder taking care of someone in crisis. I couldn't even process my own pain because I had to make sure she was physically okay. But here's the thing. I'm grateful it happened on the cruise in a weird way. If that strange sleep paralysis or whatever it was hadn't happened, I might have gone months or even years longer without knowing. I might have proposed to her. I might have married her.
I might have built an entire life with someone who was fundamentally dishonest and disloyal. Now, 8 months later, I'm in a completely different place mentally. I'm not going to lie and say it was easy getting here. The first few months were absolute hell. I questioned everything about myself. I wondered what was wrong with me that she felt the need to cheat. I wondered if I had somehow caused this or if I hadn't been enough for her. But therapy helped me realize that her cheating had nothing to do with me and everything to do with her own issues, insecurities, and character flaws. A person who truly loves and respects you doesn't cheat, period. It doesn't matter how stressed they are or how hard the long-distance situation is. Plenty of people maintain faithful long-distance relationships. She made a choice, repeatedly, to betray me. I've learned to set better boundaries. I've learned to recognize red flags earlier. I've learned that love alone isn't enough to sustain a relationship. You also need trust, respect, communication, and shared values. We had love, or at least I did, but we didn't have the other crucial elements. I've also learned not to lose myself in a relationship. I gave up so much of my own happiness and peace trying to make her happy. I exhausted myself trying to be enough for someone who was never going to be satisfied. Moving forward, I know I need to maintain my own identity and my own boundaries, even when I'm in a relationship. The money lesson was particularly valuable. I'm never again going to financially support someone I'm not married to that extent. A little help here and there is fine, but I was basically subsidizing her entire life while drowning in medical school debt. That's not sustainable or fair. I'm focusing on my education now. I'm preparing for my exams. I'm building the career I've always wanted. I'm working on becoming the kind of man I want to be, not for a relationship, but for myself. And honestly, I'm happier single than I was in that relationship during the last year of it. To anyone going through something similar, please know that it gets better. The pain feels unbearable at first. You feel like you'll never trust anyone again. You feel like you wasted years of your life. But with time, therapy, and self-work, you heal, you grow, you become stronger. And to anyone who's thinking about giving a cheater a second chance after they emotionally cheat, please learn from my mistake. When someone shows you who they are the first time, believe them. I gave her a second chance after the emotional cheating, and she used that second chance to plan and execute a full-blown physical affair that lasted months. People can change, but it's rare, and it requires them to actually want to change and do the deep work necessary. Most of the time, they just get better at hiding their behavior. I hope sharing my story helps someone else avoid the pain I went through, or help someone currently going through it feel less alone. Betrayal is one of the worst emotional pains you can experience, but you can survive it and come out stronger on the other side. I'm still processing everything that happened, and sometimes new details come back to me that make the whole situation even more painful. Like how she would video call me from my mother's house, acting all loving and committed, probably right after texting her lover. Or how she would complain about being tired or stressed when I asked why she couldn't visit me, when the real reason was she was busy maintaining a whole separate relationship. The drug dealer detail really gets to me too. This guy was an abusive person with multiple children from different women, someone who was involved in illegal activities that could get him arrested at any moment. And she chose him over me. I was a medical student with a future, someone who treated her well, someone who was willing to sacrifice everything for her. But she chose someone who represented everything unstable and dangerous. I used to wonder what that said about me, but now I understand it says everything about her and nothing about me. What really twisted the knife was how she made me feel guilty for having normal concerns and boundaries. When I expressed discomfort with her staying out late, she made me feel controlling. When I questioned why she never visited me despite me making the trip every single time, she made me feel demanding. When I brought up her financial irresponsibility, she made me feel judgmental. She weaponized my love for her against me, using it to manipulate me into ignoring my own gut instincts. The suicide attempt on the cruise ship is something I still have nightmares about. In that moment, I had to completely set aside my own devastation and trauma to take care of her. I had just discovered months of betrayal, my whole world had shattered, and instead of being able to process that, I had to go into crisis management mode. Part of me wonders if that was manipulation too, a way to shift the focus from what she had done to her being the victim. I hate thinking that way because mental health crises are real and serious, but given everything else she did, I can't help but question her motives. And the fact that she continued the behavior even after I discovered it shows how little remorse she actually had. She wasn't sorry she cheated, she was sorry she got caught. When I gave her the chance to come clean and block her lover, she blocked me instead and kept seeing him. When I was expressing suicidal thoughts to her, she went on a date with another guy. That's not someone who feels guilty about what they did. That's someone who only cares about themselves. The borrowed money situation makes me physically sick when I think about it. Every dollar I gave her that she said was for bills or emergencies or legitimate expenses was actually funding her affair. I was working exhausting hours while managing medical school coursework, one of the most demanding academic challenges that exists, and I was sending her money that she used to cheat on me. The audacity of that is staggering. I'm focusing on my education now. I'm preparing for my exams. I'm building the career I've always wanted. I'm working on becoming the kind of man I want to be, not for a relationship, but for myself. And honestly, I'm happier single than I was in that relationship during the last year of it. To anyone going through something similar, please know that it gets better. The pain feels unbearable at first. You feel like you'll never trust anyone again. You feel like you wasted years of your life. But with time, therapy, and self-work, you heal, you grow, you become stronger. And to anyone who's thinking about giving a cheater a second chance after they emotionally cheat, please learn from my mistake. When someone shows you who they are the first time, believe them. I gave her a second chance after the emotional cheating, and she used that second chance to plan and execute a full-blown physical affair that lasted months. People can change, but it's rare, and it requires them to actually want to change and do the deep work necessary. Most of the time, they just get better at hiding their behavior. I hope sharing my story helps someone else avoid the pain I went through, or helps someone currently going through it feel less alone. Betrayal is one of the worst emotional pains you can experience, but you can survive it and come out stronger on the other side. I'm still processing everything that happened, and sometimes new details come back to me that make the whole situation even more painful. Like how she would video call me from my mother's house, acting all loving and committed, probably right after texting her lover. Or how she would complain about being tired or stressed when I asked why she couldn't visit me, when the real reason was she was busy maintaining a whole separate relationship. The drug dealer detail really gets to me too. This guy was an abusive person with multiple children from different women, someone who was involved in illegal activities that could get him arrested at any moment. And she chose him over me. I was a medical student with a future, someone who treated her well, someone who was willing to sacrifice everything for her.
But she chose someone who represented everything unstable and dangerous. I used to wonder what that said about me, but now I understand it says everything about her. What really twisted the knife was how she made me feel guilty for having normal concerns and boundaries. When I expressed discomfort with her staying out late, she made me feel controlling. When I questioned why she never visited me despite me making the trip every single time, she made me feel demanding. When I brought up her financial irresponsibility, she made me feel judgmental. She weaponized my love for her against me, using it to manipulate me into ignoring my own gut instincts. The suicide attempt on the cruise ship is something I still have nightmares about. In that moment, I had to completely set aside my own devastation and trauma to take care of her. I had just discovered months of betrayal. My whole world had shattered, and instead of being able to process that, I had to go into crisis management mode. Part of me wonders if that was manipulation too, a way to shift the focus from what she had done to her being the victim. I hate thinking that way because mental health crises are real and serious, but given everything else she did, I can't help but question her motives. And the fact that she continued the behavior even after I discovered it shows how little remorse she actually had. She wasn't sorry she cheated, she was sorry she got caught. When I gave her the chance to come clean and block her lover, she blocked me instead and kept seeing him. When I was expressing suicidal thoughts to her, she went on a date with another guy. That's not someone who feels guilty about what they did. That's someone who only cares about themselves. The borrowed money situation makes me physically sick when I think about it. Every dollar I gave her that she said was for bills or emergencies or legitimate expenses was actually funding her affair.
I was working exhausting hours while managing medical school coursework, one of the most demanding academic challenges that exists, and I was sending her money that she used to cheat on me. The audacity of that is staggering. I think about the version of me from a year ago, the guy who was so in love and so committed that he couldn't see what was right in front of him. I feel sorry for that guy. He deserved so much better than what he got. He was trying so hard to be a good partner, going to therapy to improve himself, working himself to exhaustion to support someone financially and emotionally, driving across state lines repeatedly, planning romantic trips, and for what? To be betrayed in the most humiliating way possible. The graduation ceremony memory is particularly painful. I drove all that way, missing out on my own rest and relaxation during Christmas break to support her on her big day. And the very next night, she left me alone to go sleep with another man in a hotel. While I was probably lying in bed feeling grateful to be part of her life and proud of her accomplishment, she was in bed with someone else. The level of compartmentalization required to do something like that is honestly frightening. What scares me sometimes is how normal everything seemed on the surface. If you had asked me during most of that 6-year relationship if I was happy, I would have said yes. I thought we were building something real. I thought we were partners working toward a shared future. I had no idea that for at least 6 months, possibly longer, I was living in a complete fantasy while she was living a double life. It makes me question everything about my judgment. How did I miss this for so long? Were there signs I ignored? Was I just too trusting, too naive, too focused on medical school to pay attention? I've analyzed every interaction, every conversation, every moment, trying to figure out when it started and how I didn't see it. The not knowing is almost as bad as the knowing sometimes. The other guys she was involved with, besides the main lover, make me wonder how many people there actually were. She kissed multiple colleagues. She was texting someone else during our cruise. She went on a date with yet another person after we got back. Was the drug dealer the only one she actually slept with, or were there others? Did she expose me to health risks by sleeping with multiple people? I got tested for everything after we broke up, thankfully all negative, but the fact that I had to worry about that at all is enraging. I think about how she lived in my mother's house rent-free for months.
My poor mother, who opened her home to this girl out of kindness and because I asked her to, had no idea she was housing someone who was actively betraying her son. I feel guilty for putting my mom in that position. I feel guilty that my mother's generosity was taken advantage of. When I finally told my mom everything, I could see the hurt and anger in her eyes, not just for me, but because she had genuinely cared about this girl too. The abortion revelation hit me in waves. First, there was the shock that she had been pregnant at all. Then the pain that she didn't tell me. Then the confusion about when it happened and who the father might have been. Was it mine? Was it the lover's? Did she even know? And then the grief for what could have been, even though logically I know that bringing a child into that mess would have been a disaster. But still, I deserved to know. That was my potential child too, regardless of what decision we ultimately made about the pregnancy. She told me about it so casually too, like she was mentioning she had gotten a haircut. Just dropped it into conversation during a train ride like it was no big deal. No emotion, no explanation, no apology for keeping it secret. Just a flat statement of fact. That callousness tells me everything I need to know about how little I actually meant to her. Sometimes I wonder if she ever actually loved me, or if I was just convenient. I provided financial support, emotional support, a place to live, transportation, validation, and stability. I was the responsible choice, the safe choice, the one her family approved of. Meanwhile, the drug dealer was exciting, dangerous, forbidden. Maybe I was just the placeholder she kept around for security while she pursued what she actually wanted. That thought used to destroy me. Now it just makes me sad for the time I wasted. Because even if she did love me in her own way, it clearly wasn't the kind of love I deserved. It wasn't faithful love. It wasn't honest love. It wasn't respectful love. So what good is love without those things? It's just empty words. The sleep paralysis experience still freaks me out when I think about it. I'm not a particularly spiritual or religious person, but something happened in that moment that I can't explain scientifically. Maybe it was my subconscious finally breaking through all the denial. Maybe it was intuition manifesting in a physical way. Maybe it was something else entirely. Whatever it was, I'm grateful for it, as strange as that sounds. Without that moment, I might still be in that relationship, still being lied to, still wasting my energy on someone who didn't value me. Recovery has been a non-linear process. Some days I feel completely over it, strong and confident and ready to move forward. Other days, something random will remind me of her or of what happened, and I'll feel that anger and hurt all over again. I've learned that's normal. Healing from betrayal isn't a straight line. It's messy and complicated and takes longer than you think it should. Therapy has been crucial. My therapist helped me understand that I wasn't responsible for her choices. I didn't cause her to cheat by being in medical school. I didn't cause her to cheat by not visiting enough or by having legitimate concerns about the relationship. She cheated because she chose to cheat. Period. That seems obvious now, but in the immediate aftermath, I was blaming myself for everything. I've also learned about codependency and how I had fallen into that trap. I was so focused on fixing her, supporting her, and making her happy that I completely neglected my own needs and well-being. I was setting myself on fire to keep her warm, as the saying goes. I've had to learn how to have a healthy relationship with myself before I can even think about having one with someone else. The trust issues are real, though. I find myself skeptical of people's motives now in a way I never was before. When someone is nice to me or shows interest in me, I immediately wonder what they want or what they're hiding. I'm working on this in therapy because I know that not everyone is like my ex, but the wound is still fresh enough that my default setting is suspicion rather than trust. Dating seems impossible right now. The thought of opening myself up to someone else, of being vulnerable again, of risking this kind of pain again, feels overwhelming. I know eventually I'll be ready, but right now I'm content being single and focusing on myself. Medical school keeps me busy enough that I don't have much time for dating anyway, which is probably for the best. My friends and family have been incredible through all of this. The people who expressed concerns about her during the relationship have been gracious enough not to say "I told you so," even though they absolutely could.
It's just a painful chapter. You will get through this. You will heal. You will love again when you're ready. And most importantly, you will learn to recognize your own worth and refuse to accept anything less than you deserve. Thank you for reading my story. Writing it all out has been therapeutic in its own way. If even one person reads this and decides to leave a toxic relationship or recognizes red flags they've been ignoring, then sharing all these painful details will have been worth it. Did this story get to you? Leave a like and subscribe. More true stories are coming soon.